At the far edges of the world, where the sandstorms howl and the desert stretches to oblivion, the ancient blue dragon, Azuriak, stirs from his decades-long slumber. Each of his 1,000-year-old scales shimmer like gleaming sapphires under the cruel desert sun, and his eyes spark with an ageless cunning that speaks volumes of this world's forgotten past. This lost, sun-bleached desert, a place of desolation and hidden secrets, has forever been Azuriak's domain. Now awoken, the fiercely territorial, millennia-old dragon senses a strange and unsettling presence. A dark cult, the Black Sun Scions, has begun erecting a temple to their disgusting gods at the far edges of Azuriak's domain, and now their incessant mortal prayers echoed rudely across these endless dunes. Azuriak, the lord and master of these sands, will not tolerate such audacity. The temple, a grotesque anomaly, piercing the orange sky with its massive dark spires festooned with precious metals and dark jewels. It was an affront, an insult to the stark, brutal beauty of this desert, of his desert. But Azuriak paused from the impulsive, leveraging the wisdom that only a millennia of existence can provide. He surveyed the construction from the sky, noting a certain structural grace of the edifice. He witnessed from afar the apparent depths of the labyrinthine chambers underground, and he watched as the spired towers slowly reached high into the sky. Such a lofty perch would allow the overseeing of his lands most effectively. The cultists were, by any measure, fine builders and craftsmen. Perhaps Azuriak would let them finish their temple, continuing to disrupt his sleep, at least for a time. This ancient dragon, both clever and cunning, now believed this temple would in fact make a splendid lair. Hundreds of desert dawns passed, each as annoying as the last, until finally the Black Sun Temple was complete. Azuriak, this ancient, proud, and powerful Leviathan of Storm, began preparations to claim the lair as his own and drive out these unholy invaders upon his domain. He set his plan into action and soon began a campaign of terror. The powerful azure dragon swept down upon the cultists in storms of sand and charged lightning. His furious roars echoed across the dunes. His attacks were deadly, unpredictable, and effective. A prolonged nightmare that filled the cultists with both fear and doubt. In addition to the storm dragon's brute force, Azuriak manipulated the desert elements at his command, burying their water sources, turning them into pits of quicksand, and burning a nearby oasis with the fires of his lightning. He conjured devastating sandstorms and turned this once near hospitable desert into a deadly ally. Yet the Black Sun Scions were not easily cowed. Fully invested into their now complete temple, they retaliated with their dark magic. Searing beams of blackened light aimed to pierce Azuriak's diamond-hard scales. They summoned divine shields to protect their temple and prayed to their dark sun god for deliverance. But Azuriak was as relentless as the desert he commanded. He was patient, methodical, wearing the cultists down and picking them off one by one. For each spell they hurled, he retaliated tenfold, his lightning breath and thunderous roars reducing their defenses to rubble. In time, the cultists began to falter. Their faith wavered, their numbers dwindled. And then, when the Scions were on the brink of despair, Azuriak made his final assault. He descended upon the temple like an avenging storm, his wrath as terrifying as any desert tempest. The temple shook, the last of the defenses crumbled, and the last of the cultists' heartbeats waned. The Black Sun Scions were no more. In the aftermath of this eradication, Azuriak descended into the temple ruins. He explored the bowels of his new home, systematically destroying any final remnants of the foul god they once worshipped. Satisfied, Azuriak now claimed the unholy temple as his new lair. He reveled in the echoing silence, the grandeur of the abandoned halls, the depths of the dark underground chambers, and the massive spire from which he could oversee his territory, all now his to command. The desert once again belonged to its rightful ancient master. Welcome adventurers, I'm Rich, and this is Riches and Liches, where it's all things Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop role-playing. Today we continue our Chromatic Dragon line of lore videos as we brave the shifting sands and the desert heat to find out what drives this majestic blue dragon. But before we start, listen, can you and I make a deal? If you like this video and you're not already a subscriber, could I humbly ask that you go ahead and press that sub and like button? I mean, it's free and it really helps out the channel algorithm, especially such a new channel in a growth stage. And hey, if you don't like it, I get it, don't sub. But then, would you comment and tell me what I can do better, what I can improve to actually earn your sub? This channel was created to serve the D&D and RPG lore community, so if I can be better and earn your sub, tell me what's lacking. I'm all about constructive critiques. Honor system, pinky swear? Okay, thank you. In looking back on our Dragon lore series thus far, I've learned a lot. The first video in this series and one of our first videos ever covered the mighty Red Dragon, and I gotta be honest, Big Red did not get the proper treatment in hindsight. I was still finding my footing. So I have two promises moving forward. First, we'll not treat today's subject with such haste. And we will, at some point, provide a thorough Red Dragon remaster. In fact, it will be our first lore remaster when the time comes. You have my word on that. But we have a ton going on with the channel as of late, which I'm super excited for and super grateful to my growing base of subscribers and patrons. Thank you so very much. But man, there are simply not enough hours in the day. So until then, please look upon today's deep dive into the Blue Dragon and its lair as a template of what the King of Chromatics, Big Red, will get someday. Okay, enough red talk. We're all about the blues today. Blue dragons are the very embodiment of the relentless desert wind and the ferocity of a lightning storm, an amalgamation of awe-inspiring power, ancient wisdom, and sheer might. But what exactly sets these dragons apart from their chromatic kin? Why does the mention of an ancient blue dragon strike a chord of fear and respect in the hearts of adventurers and scholars alike? To answer these questions, we need to delve into the very essence of these magnificent and fearsome creatures. Their physical attributes, their origin, their mindset, and their place within the grand cosmic theater that is the Dungeons and Dragons universe. All this, along with a healthy dose of the homebrew you've come to expect. So yes, this means we march into the desert once again. I mean, yeah, no mummy lords today. Only an ancient serpentine master of lightning and the elements that would likely eat a mummy lord for a high noon snack. Why, oh why, can't we study pixies or fairies for a change? But I am a humble historian here. Okay, off we go. Let's go before I lose my nerve. In the heart of a thunderous sandstorm, under the beating sun of a vast desert, or amidst the blinding flashes and deafening roars of an unrelenting storm, there lies a creature of ancient magic and formidable power, a majestic and proud dragon whose very presence shapes the landscape around it. One of the most vain and territorial of an already very arrogant lineage of such creatures, but with some defining characteristics we shall discuss that clearly set them apart from other of its kin. The blue dragon, also referred to as a storm dragon, is a name that conjures images of boundless skies, deadly charged energy, and the ruthless, unyielding power of nature. Blue dragons are unique not just for their thunderous might, but also for their intricate connections to the elements of their home terrain, the vast arid plains and desolate deserts. They are creatures of lightning and sand, of thunderous roars echoing through the endless dunes, and of storms that darken the sky and transform the landscape around them. Their power is raw and elemental, reflecting the untamed desolation of their chosen homes. You likely know much about the Dragon of Storm, but today you'll learn subtleties and secrets known only to the most legendary of scholars. So sit back and prepare yourself for a journey of knowledge and discovery as we unfurl the mysteries, explore the legends, and unveil the truths about these paragons of elemental power, the Blue Dragon. Our journey begins in the time before time, when the material plane was still a whirling maelstrom of unformed chaos. Rising from the corpse of a primordial deity named Io were two dragon deities, siblings, Tiamat and her brother Bahamut, each representing the future good and evil of dragonkind. Tiamat, who will definitely get her own spotlight lore video in the future, reigned supreme in her lair, the dragon-spawned pits of Azarul, located in the realm of Avernus, the first lair of the 9 hells. Feared and revered as the deity of the chromatic dragons, Tiamat is a multifaceted queen of infinite guile, greed, and an indomitable will. Each of her 5 heads represented a different race of chromatic dragon: red, blue, green, black, and white. The story of the Blue Dragon lineage begins with Tiamat's second head, known for its patient yet tempestuous nature and a deep affinity for the desert and arid landscapes. The blue head of Tiamat held a particular fascination with the power of lightning storms, watching with curious eyes as bolts of azure energy danced through the skies of the material plane. As the ages passed, Tiamat decided to extend her dominion into that of the material plane. But she couldn't do so directly due to the cosmic law that prevents deities from freely roaming the material plane. Thus, Tiamat conceived a plan to form and create her draconic children that would serve as her proxies. In the grand chamber of her infernal palace, Tiamat took raw chaos from the material plane and used her very essence to mold and shape this immense energy into the form of the majestic dragon, breathing life into the first of the blue dragons. The first spawn of each head were the progenitors of their respective chromatic dragon races. It was a sight to behold. Its scales were as brilliant as a bright cloudless sky, and when it unfurled its grand wings, the air crackled with electricity. In time, this first blue dragon was sent to the material plane to establish the lineage of the blue dragons. Over the millennia, the descendants of this primordial blue dragon proved themselves to be creatures of great cunning and intellect, along with their innate abilities to control the forces of nature around them, just as Mother Tiamat had intended. Tiamat, from her throne in Avernus, continually watches the progress of her blue dragon children with pride and satisfaction. Their existence serves as a testament to her power, her cunning, and her dominion over the material plane. Picture, if you will, a magnificent creature of such magnitude that its shadow can blanket entire villages. The blue dragon's sheer size is nothing short of massive, reaching in excess of an awe-inspiring 80 feet in length. One of the defining physical characteristics of the blue dragon is the single prominent massive horn in the center of its head, as opposed to the 2 horns that make up most species. While not consistently represented in the accompanying art of this video, it is nonetheless a minor but unique identifier of the blue dragon that you should be aware of. The serpentine body of the blue dragon is covered in scales that shimmer like sapphires under the desert sun, each as large as a grown man's hand and hard as the finest forged steel, yet as smooth as glass. And these scales aren't just for show, not only acting as a suit of plate armor and channeling its innate lightning magic forward, but these electric blue scales shimmer like the sun on water, providing the dragon with exceptional camouflage against the desert sky while it's in flight. Due to their scales and thick hide, like all chromatic dragons, the blue dragon has poor tactile sense. As such, the blue dragon can be quite comfortable sleeping on a jagged pile of treasure, as they are often known to do. The blue dragon, however, is still sensitive to pain. Anything capable of penetrating their hide and scales will receive their full attention. And the storm dragon's wings, oh, they are something to behold. With a massive span, the dragon's powerful wings are veined with a network of pulsing electric energy, hinting at the deadly breath attack contained within this deadly creature. Each wing consists of a membrane of thin hide stretched across a structure of lightweight bones like that of a bat's wing, and each is large enough that nothing short of numerous large tears could possibly threaten the wing's integrity. As a result, it's difficult to injure a dragon so severely that it cannot fly, and such tears are known to heal relatively quickly. Magnificent to see up close, the blue dragon's wings spread out like a great thundercloud, casting its fearsome shadow. As the serpent takes to the sky, the beating of these wings is akin to the sound of rolling thunder, a clear indication of the storm from which the blue dragon gets its alternative name. Its eyes, two shining electric orbs, gleam with an intensity of a storm cloud charged with nature's fury. They hold a gaze that can be as calm as the eye of a storm or as ruthless as a lightning bolt, a windowed view into the boundless intellect and the insatiable curiosity of the creature. The dragon's mouth, a cavernous maw lined with razor-sharp teeth as large as swords, hides this furious breath weapon of pure destruction. When the dragon roars, it's as if the very skies are being torn asunder, and when it breathes, death often soon follows in the form of devastating bolts of white-hot, unhinged lightning. And then there's the tail, long, thick and powerful, capable on its own of smashing a building to rubble with a single powerful stroke. It's a testament to the creature's raw, physical might, a weapon that complements its devastating breath and fearsome claws. Remember, the blue dragon is no mere beast, but a force of nature. So when you think of the storm dragon, imagine a creature born from the heart of a storm, carrying the relentless desert heat, a being of sapphire and lightning, of thunderous roars and devastating power. With age comes wisdom, and blue dragons are no exception. Among the many facets of the blue dragon, it's their personality and intelligence that are perhaps the most captivating. While it's easy to be awestruck by their physical might and magical prowess, it's their intellect and complex temperament that truly set them apart. Indeed, blue dragons are no mere brutes. They are highly intelligent and think of themselves as scholars, historians, tacticians, and strategists of the highest order. Blue dragons possess a deep understanding of magic, history, and the workings of the world, and this expertise only grows, in fact, exponentially as they age. Over their long lives, the storm dragon will amass vast troves of knowledge about magic, civilizations, history, geography, and the countless cultures and races that populate the world. In fact, their intellect, as they approach ancient status, rivals the most learned wizards, whom they deem as inferior, and the blue dragon's wisdom surpasses that of the oldest sages. And all this intelligence isn't merely academic, for they also possess a cunning that is as sharp as the most finely honed blade, and they're fabled for their extreme patience and strategic minds. Storm dragons have a strong proclivity towards long-term planning. They understand the flow of time in a way that shorter-lived creatures can't really begin to fathom. Blue dragons are willing to wait as long as required, sometimes spending years or even decades setting up intricate plots and careful machinations. It's this patience that is one of their most formidable weapons, and it makes them incredibly dangerous adversaries. Blue dragons are known for their eloquent speech and deceptive charm. This natural gift for manipulation is used almost effortlessly to control or sway others, as they are well known to keep many minions and servants about, bending them to their will with a mix of fear and respect. These servants are often found guarding the dragon's lair as the preferred method of lair defense, as opposed to using tricks and traps like some chromatic kin. Vanity certainly also plays a significant role in their behavior. Blue dragons take immense pride in their appearance as well as that of their lair, which is often adorned with lavish and rare valuables to reflect their wealth, prestige, and might. They are fastidious about their shimmering blue scales, and it is considered a great insult to suggest a blue dragon has lost its luster. Indeed, such an affront, or any such insinuation that mocks or belittles the great storm dragon's majesty, is one of the few things to turn the normally pragmatic dragon into a murderous, red dragon-like rage. However, on the whole, blue dragons, despite their raw elemental power, are not typically rash or impulsive. While fearsome to be sure, they're not as cruel or as quick to rage as some of the other species of dragon. With blue dragons, there is a certain majesty, a regal bearing that permeates their every action. They carry themselves with a sense of confidence and superiority, an aura of command, if you will, that can even cow the most stalwart of warriors. They are proud creatures, aware of their power and their place in the world, Yet their pride is not without merit. They have a deep-seated respect for strength, both physical and mental, and they value honor and loyalty. Make no mistake, blue dragons are not creatures of senseless destruction. They have their own code, their own set of principles that guide their actions. While more often than not, these principles fail to align with those of humans, elves, or other civilized races, they are nevertheless a crucial part of the blue dragon's personality. To understand a blue dragon, one must understand that they are not mere monsters. They are complex, intelligent beings with their own beliefs, desires, and motivations. They are as varied and diverse as the myriad races of the world, each with its own unique personality and quirks. Understanding them requires patience, respect, and a willingness to see beyond the scales and the lightning into the stormy depths of their certainly evil, but also ancient, wise souls. Blue dragons, like all chromatic dragons, are generally aligned towards evil. They are often described as lawful evil, valuing order, discipline, and dominance within their hierarchical societies. As such, they take immense pleasure in rules, systems, and regulations while enjoying the power dynamics that they generate. However, the concept of alignment in Dungeons & Dragons is not an absolute determinant of a character's actions or beliefs, and individual blue dragons can exhibit a range of personalities and behaviors. While they generally do have evil tendencies, they can and often are augmented or altered based on scenario and circumstance as dictated by each individual dragon's own unique quirks, motivations, and of course, goals. In fact, it is not unheard of for a blue dragon to show uncharacteristic benevolence, depending upon the longer-term goals of the dragon, as well as the narrative arc required by the dungeon master. One of the primary motivations of blue dragons is the desire for power and control. They seek to exert their influence over their territories, as well as the subjugation of lesser creatures. All dragons have a strong desire for wealth, and of course the blue dragon is no different. They take great pride in curating their hoards to an obsessive level and will spend centuries accumulating and protecting such wealth. To a blue dragon, its hoard is not just a collection of valuable items, but more a grand testament to its power, cunning, achievements, and successful conquests. As the long-term planners and strategists befitting their lawful alignment and long lifespans, the blue dragon often has far-reaching, longer-term goals and ambitions. These can include conquering vast territories to expand their borders of dominion, accumulating immense wealth, acquiring more elaborate lairs, or ruling over a local populace. Additionally, they consistently strive to increase their personal power, often through magical means. This can include hunting for rare artifacts or seeking out ancient knowledge that could help them become stronger and/or more influential. Another goal of the blue dragon revolves around the social order of their draconic lineage. They will often be motivated to establish dominance among other dragons and creatures. The blue dragon will always seek to become the apex predator within their chosen territory. It is these types of goals and motivations that allow the blue dragon to break the lawful evil mold of instant aggression and immediate combat over the course of its interactions with the player party when desired. These longer-term goals, seen on a dragon's time scale that stretches across a millennia, that most living creatures cannot even understand. And for this reason, it is perfectly within the scope of the blue dragon's psyche, despite its core alignment, to potentially help, guide, or even spare an adventuring party if there is sufficient motivation for the mighty blue dragon. It is for all these reasons that the blue dragon is such a great central figure in a sprawling, epic-sized campaign. With so many varied facets to their complex inner workings, thus allowing a creative dungeon master to construct engaging, exciting, unexpected, and memorable encounters. Blue dragons typically choose desolate desert environments, arid plains, and flat coastal areas to make their lairs. You might be surprised as to why the blue dragon prefers these areas, yet the choice is not accidental. Certainly the storm dragon is drawn to these areas for the forces of nature that make up their innate power. But additionally, each of these areas offers one characteristic vitally important to the blue dragon. You see, blue dragons are highly territorial, even by the lofty standards of dragons, and watching over their domain and intercepting unwelcome intruders, that's core to the tempestuous nature of these agile creatures. And each of these environments provides for vast, open swaths of land with a clear view of any approaching threat, thus providing an advantageous tactical position to the storm dragon. However, the lair is not just on the surface, for a blue dragon will create a complex lair that both extends far beneath the shifting sands into the cool, rocky underbelly of the desert, while also looking to create an elevated perch from which this obsessive protector of his borders can survey the distant lands. To protect their abode, blue dragons use their own innate magics and the desert's harsh conditions to their advantage, manipulating the terrain to create deceptive mirages and sudden sandstorms. These act as natural defense mechanisms, disorienting intruders and hiding the true entrance to their lairs. As we step into the Homebrew section of our journey, we covered the lair in our intro narrative, a former cultist temple with both vast subterranean dungeons and a tall spire from which Azuriok, or your blue dragon, can oversee his borders. To complement such a sprawling lair, I've designed 4 lair actions, all centered around a theme of using the tormented souls of the defeated Black Sun cultists that are now trapped within this temple lair. Of these 4, I would recommend selecting any 2 to help defend your own Storm Dragon lair, and of course, alter as you see fit to best serve your table. First up, the Black Sun Shroud. As a lair action, the dragon summons the shadows of the tormented cultist souls, enveloping the dragon in a cloak of darkness. Until the end of the next turn, any attack roll made against the dragon has disadvantage if the attacker can't see through magical darkness. Number 2. Sandstorm of Souls. The dragon summons a swirling sandstorm, but it's imbued with the agonized faces of the Black Sun cultist spirits now forever trapped within the temple ruin. This sandstorm heavily obscures a 60-foot radius centered on a point the dragon can see within 120 feet, and it lasts until the dragon's next turn. Each creature starting its turn in this area will take 2d6 psychic damage. Number 3. Black Sunrise. The blue dragon has, in the decades since the eradication of the Black Sun Scion cult, mastered control of a segment of the very cultist spirits he vanquished. The dragon stirs memories of these tormented and dark spirits that now serve the blue dragon. As a lair action, he can summon an appropriate number of these cultists as shadows to defend the lair. They protect the depths of the temple and cannot venture into the sunlight. And number 4, the most complex of these lair actions, I call the Black Sun Eclipse. As a lair action, the blue dragon again taps into the agonized spirits he vanquished from this temple, ethereal beings now forever trapped within these walls. By channeling their dark sun god's energy, the dragon creates a solar eclipse over his domain, plunging the land into darkness. As part of this lair action, each of the actual and real 4 phases of a solar eclipse would happen in order, with each providing some effect. Here's what I came up with, but feel free to adjust to your taste. Eclipse Phase 1 is called First Contact. As the moon starts to cover the sun, a chill sweeps through the temple. All fire-based spells and effects are weakened within the lair, doing only half damage. Additionally, all non-evil creatures in the lair have disadvantage on saving throws against cold damage during this phase. If your party's sufficiently powerful and you need to add a little more punch, you could also add a wild magic effect to any of the fire-based casts and/or provide for a percentage chance to fail. Eclipse Phase number 2 is called Totality. Darkness engulfs the lair as the eclipse reaches its peak of Black Sun power. In the utter darkness of the total eclipse, the dragon becomes a creature of pure shadow, becoming immune to all non-magical damage. In addition, the dragon gains advantage on all attack rolls due to the complete darkness, and its breath weapon, now imbued with the essence of the unholy eclipse, also becomes more potent, dealing additional necrotic damage. Lastly, all light sources within the lair are extinguished, and any attempts to create light, magical or otherwise, are suppressed for the duration of this phase. For the third phase of the eclipse, we call shadow bands. As the sunlight starts to peek around the edges of the moon, mysterious writhing bands of shadow sweep across the temple. Any creature that starts its turn in these shadow bands must succeed on a wisdom save or be restrained by the shadows, experiencing disturbing visions of their worst fears until the start of their next turn. To use this lair action properly, you'll want to notate your lair combat map prior to engagement and give each band an assigned number. Of course, these bands are invisible until the eclipse phase is enacted as the party moves throughout the lair. Once the phase starts, you can reveal the bands, cryptically at first since it's still an unknown, and then depending upon the number of bands you've created, you could roll a random associated die. I would recommend a simple odd-even approach so that 50% are active and 50% are not during the phase. And finally, the fourth phase of a solar eclipse, fourth contact. As the eclipse ends and normal sunlight begins to return, a surge of arcane energy floods the temple. This energy can do several things depending upon your particular scenario. For example, it could rejuvenate the dragon, healing it for a portion of its maximum health, and perhaps a percentage of that could also be applied to the party if you wanted to make it a universal effect, signifying the end of the solar eclipse. Or the surge could empower its next spell or breath attack, increasing its damage output. Or maybe it has a percentage chance to restore a spell slot for each applicable party member. There are a myriad of options here, and again, these are just examples to get your own creative juices flowing. But if you use any of these lair actions at your table, I'd love to hear how it went. The Storm Dragon, a complex, multifaceted creature that is dripping with personality and replayability. These majestic dragons possess a strong desire for solitude, order, and dominance, reflecting a preference for a strict and hierarchical societal structure, of which they expect to be at the apex. Whether it's manipulating the politics of desert tribes to further expand their borders, or orchestrating complex plots to enrich their hordes, the Blue Dragon always has a plan in motion and can always provide a campaign with a level of excitement, engagement, and surprise that rivals nearly any other creature. Truly one of the most versatile in all of Dungeons & Dragons. No wonder they are so popular. I hope you were as entertained and or learned something new today about the Dungeons & Dragons Blue Dragon, and had as much fun listening as I had sharing. Please consider following on Twitter at Riches and Liches, checking out our Patreon and Discord, and if you feel like I earned it, sub and ring that bell to help me grow this amazing community. Riches and Liches was created to serve you, so comment below and tell us what you'd like to see us cover next. Thanks for listening, and until next time, remember, the only limitation at your table is your imagination.